Hey everyone, Nikolai back here again in beautiful Miami, Florida at the TradeTechFX conference. I'm here with Phil Weisberg, Executive Vice President at oneZero. Phil, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us.
Thanks for interviewing us.
Absolutely. I know it's only day one of the major event, but I'm sure you've had meetings and spoken to colleagues and other leaders already. Kind of what's your impression of the event so far and sort of the things that you've been hearing?
So I think people are very grateful just to be getting back together in person after 2 years of social distancing. A lot of the themes at the conference relate to automation, better use of data, better use of analytics, but they always end back with underlying the FX business are relationships between customers and their liquidity sources, and basically all this is about is making that as efficient as possible.
Great. I know that oneZero is, one of the most esteemed companies for basically FX B2B or technology and other solutions in the industry. Tell us a little bit, how did that come about? I mean, you guys have been in the business for a long time, many years. Kind of how has sort of the business developed and grown into what it is today?
So, like any successful entrepreneurial company, oneZero's two founders, Andrew Rolich and Jesse, built customer relationships one at a time. They saw what was in the industry, they thought it was inadequate, and they worked in close partnership with customers one at a time to build excellent technology solutions. But I think one of the keys to oneZero's success is the core DNA of the company are essentially video game programmers and did not come from the financial industry, so they had no preconceived notions about how the market ought to be structured, how technology works. But there are a lot of things that are in common between video games and FX, like if video games aren't always working, people aren't going to buy them. They have to process a lot of information in a very short amount of time. And one of the really unique things about oneZero is because our software developers used to have to program Xboxes and stuff, they're used to being able to do things with less, right? We pack a lot of analytics and processing into a relatively low hardware footprint, and that basically just results in cost savings for our customers.
Recently, I think you guys brought on a few new executives who were previously at, I think, FXall and maybe Refinitiv. Does that mean that oneZero is sort of expanding in terms of your team, or are you guys sort of solidifying certain positions within the company to kind of basically improve the people that are behind the service?
So the people at oneZero are excellent. They were focused several years ago exclusively on the retail industry. One of the natural outcomes of focusing on the retail industry is you're able to process more than one asset class and also millions and millions of tickets. Therefore, everything had to be automated. So the theory about these new hires is that those skill sets that are part of the core DNA in oneZero can be applied to a different client audience, the institutional foreign exchange market. And in order to make the adaptations to the system and communicate properly with the clients, we wanted to increase some of the domain expertise about that type of the market. But the core guts of our technology and our operations team, it's the same teams, because the core capabilities that are required, processing lots of tickets, making lots of data-driven decisions in real time, it's the same in both market segments.
Makes sense. We know that on the retail side of things, traditional FX brokers who have been around for a long time, new brokers have been in the market for a couple of years. all of them are going multi-asset. I actually even call it all asset, right? Because it seems that a lot of retail companies want it all, right? Any and all products that could be provided to the end customer to trade with a reliable price feed, reliable execution, and things like that. How does oneZero today help these types of companies basically integrate all of these somewhat fragmented products, because they're coming from different asset classes, different types of pricing, execution, and things like that? How does oneZero help these kind of brokerages achieve those goals?
So one of the challenges that oneZero was able to meet for its clients is our systems are capable of handling, I would call them listed products, which are primarily driven on symbols, and there's a finite number of symbols, and very specific order execution rules, with over-the-counter markets where you have an infinite variety of symbols and more freedom in terms of the market structure. So one of the things that we do for our clients is we're capable of integrating futures and cash equities market data feeds, as well as the richness of the over-the-counter markets where you can't really go to a central exchange and get a best bid and best offer. It doesn't exist, right? So I think being able to juxtapose the listed markets with the over-the-counter markets is really, really helpful for our clients. And essentially, they can't give their end users two systems. They need to track their position, P&L, margin across all of it. So fundamentally, the clients who are choosing oneZero are the ones that need the integration across asset classes. By the way, that's also something that we see as a trend in the institutional markets, because futures is a substitute product for cash. But if you have a system that only does cash, it's not going to allow you to figure out what is the best way to mitigate your risk, futures or cash.
That makes sense. When I think about like FX counterparties, I think about last look. It's sort of a topic that's been discussed pretty widely in our industry. It seems like entities or institutions, there's less companies using last look these days, it seems, because of updates to the FX Global Code of Conduct. But I do understand that oneZero has an analytical tool, right, for brokerages to look to use when we're speaking about last look. Is that true?
Yes. So last look is basically an attribute of a trading protocol, and it can be used as a beneficial tool of a trading protocol, or it can be used in problematic ways. Not all last look usage is negative, but when you illuminate how it's being used, you help ensure that your clients who are using a last look trading protocol are aware how much optionality they're giving to the LP in order to fill the order, and then you help them understand whether they're a net beneficiary or not, right? So if you give a wider last look window, but you receive prices on larger amounts and the fill ratio goes up, that might be a net benefit, right? I think the big issue in the industry was people were comparing two prices with different last look windows, and they weren't keeping track of what would happen if there was a reject, right? For our clients, we can keep track of, on their behalf automatically, when they are rejected, what is the cost of that reject? Theoretical. So it isn't just enough to know you were rejected. What you have to understand is, what did that cost? And then you can compare the rejected outcomes with a firm liquidity protocol, which inevitably will have wider prices. So when you look at both outcomes side by side, you can then make an adjustment in your aggregation system that will help adjust a last look price to a firm equivalent basis. And by giving clients the ability to do that within their aggregator after they make data-driven decisions, they can more easily compare prices with last look and prices without last look.
Makes sense. Phil, with multi-asset trading comes the need for market data. And a lot of the times, brokers are going to market data providers or vendors, as we call them, and not necessarily directly to an exchange per se. What kind of solutions does oneZero have in terms of helping brokers integrate that data from the vendor, directly into their trading platform, whether that data is used by what we call, in the regulatory sphere, professional traders and non-professional traders and things like that?
So our approach to this problem is we have relationships with a number of different market data redistributors. So when our clients want to purchase market data, they have an arm's length relationship with the market data redistributor. We're not in the middle of that relationship. That's for the client to choose which market data redistributor is most suitable for them. But we'll integrate with that market data redistributor so that the customer's data flows within their trading hub, right? And depending on a customer's need, that may influence which market data redistributor is the better solution for them. Some people need a very broad set of market data to run their business, in which case, somebody like a Refinitiv may be a good choice. Sometimes people don't need the breadth, but they're more interested in alternative data sets. So we have integrations with people like QuantHouse. And then there are other market data redistributors like Active who have very good price points and value propositions for, in particular, the retail FX industry. And I would say, in addition to all of those sources, we also give access to market makers. So a prime will often supply market data to the customer, and that's one of the reasons that our customers are thoughtful between getting their market data from a prime, which we also allow. That's just part of the value proposition that a prime-to-prime brings to the table. So often their choice is, do I want to trade and source data from the same entity, or do I want to sort of build my own liquidity function, in which case the data would come directly from its original source, and they would then hedge their CFDs with listed products like futures and cash.
Sounds great. I guess my last question is, for you personally, in your work at oneZero or in your conversations with some of the executives and industry leaders here, what do you think are the main themes for us in the FX industry, let's say for 2022 and beyond? So
I think the main theme is, how do you integrate the data analysis and the trading? In a lot of cases, the data analysis is a separate silo and doesn't lead to direct outcomes within the trading system. They're indirect outcomes. One of the things that we're looking at and doing, which seems to be important at least to the participants at this conference, is to integrate those two things together with each other, so that the current market conditions can influence your trade routing and hedging decisions as the market moves, whether it's a short-term movement, whether it's a episodic movement, whether it's a predictable movement around non-farm payrolls. So, to give you an example, if you want to switch your liquidity function over a number or over a high volatility setting, you need to analyze who does best in those circumstances, recognize when you're in that circumstance, and then toggle the liquidity regime. We're able to do that in oneZero.
Great. Well, Phil, thanks for taking the time to speak with us today. It was great to meet you. I know you're a busy man today and tomorrow, and we wish you and oneZero success in 2022. Hopefully, maybe we'll see each other at another conference this year.
Yeah, let's hope there are plenty of conferences. And thank you for the valuable services that you guys provide to the industry. We all appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.